My name is Michelle, and this is my video out. I'm actually from New Haven, Connecticut. I have been here in Norfolk, Virginia, or just the Virginia area for the past 17 years now. Yeah, it's a long time. When I was younger, about 13 years old, I had a encounter with someone. I was walking down the street, and growing up, I enjoyed sports. So I was this, tomboy, basketball, baseball, kickball type girl. And one day I was walking down the street and I had my hat on backwards, and a family friend is walking down the street, and she stops me and she's like, "Michelle, you don't even know." I'm like, "Know what?" She's like, "You don't even know." And I'm just like, "Know what?" And she's like, "You're gonna be gay." And I just took off running. And I went to my friend's house and I cried. And my friend is like, "Well, Michelle," she was just like, "If you are, it's okay. And if you're not, you're not." That was at 13, and I didn't know. I knew I had an attraction to women, but I didn't know if that was, at the time, as I look back, if that was an insecurity with me, because I saw things in other women that wasn't necessarily in me. I wasn't this, confident person that I saw in other young girls my age. So I didn't know if it was an attraction or if it was something that I wanted to be, that something that I liked that I saw in them. And it wasn't until I was about 18 that I met someone, and she allowed me to just be who I was and just to figure out who I was along the way, just with our conversation and, my ability to let her know that I was attracted to her. And so my best friend, Brandon, he was just like, when I told him about her, he was just like, "Well, I was just waiting on you to let me know when you were ready to come out." And I was just like, okay. So Brandon was the first person that I told. We're still close to this day. He's like my brother. And he was the first person I told. Went to college at North Carolina State at the age of 18, and I was able to be out. From Connecticut to North Carolina, I didn't feel that I could be out in Connecticut. My mother was kind of religious, and just growing up, she used hand signals to indicate, men were gay, and just some of her verbiage wasn't that positive for gay individuals or lesbians. So growing up, I just didn't feel comfortable once I realized who I was to come out to her. So went to college, had girlfriends, friends knew, but at the age of about 21, it got to a point where I was just like, the closest person in my life was my mother. And I was just like, I'm harboring the secret and she doesn't know exactly who I am. So one day I was home on college break. My grandmother was ill. So we took shifts to take care of my grandmother. And one day was my shift, and I was just like, I'm tired of this. So I wrote my mother a long letter, and I just left it on the table, and I went to my shift to help my grandmother. So I came home about 6 o'clock in the morning, and my mother is up at the table with her coffee, and she's like, "Okay, let's talk about this letter." So I'm nervous, and before we even start talking, I'm crying, snot coming out my nose. And she's just like, "Michelle," she's asking me all the questions. She's like, "Did anything happen?" Just very inquisitive of how I came to who I was. And I told her it was just my feelings and who I loved and who I choose to be with. And she was just like, "Michelle, everyone is not going to accept you for who you are." But she said, "I love you, and I love you, and God loves you." And after that, it was just like any closets. And if anyone had anything to say about my sexuality, it didn't matter, because my mother knew, she was okay with it. And she told me that God loved me. So it was okay. So at the age of 21, I came out to my mother. A lot of other people I came out to, they were just like, "We knew." So it wasn't a big coming out process. I've never actually came out to my family. It was just, this is Michelle. It's always been Michelle. My brother and I are close. He knew because I left a card out one day from a girlfriend at the time. But yes, my coming out process has actually been smooth and welcoming when I came out to my parents and my friends and family. So it was a good process for me. When I was younger, I my we had a neighbor, and her daughter was lesbian. I don't exactly know how I knew that, but maybe it's just kind of like that gaydar type thing. But growing up, I knew that and it's not anything that I saw. I never saw her with other women. I just kind of knew that she was gay. And it was confirmed as I got older and met her girlfriends. But growing up, my best friend Brandon, he transitioned from female to male when we were in our 20s, but growing up, he identified as lesbian. So he was actually the first person that came out in my life and that made it okay being who he was. And I saw a lot of courage from him because, in high school, we started high school in 1994, graduated in 1998. It wasn't how it was now. It seems a little more accepting. Technology has changed. Ideas and thoughts and views are shared more widely now. But back in high school, it was just kind of like different. It was different. And Brandon had the courage to be who he was at the time. And it wasn't easy for him. It wasn't easy for him at all. But he helped me throughout my process of coming out. And he's my brother. I love him to death. So he was the first person in my world to come out and for it to be okay. So, growing up, my mother, I just think it was just one of those older antiquated thoughts, and maybe because she didn't know a lot of individuals that were identified as LGBT. But my mother was kind to everyone. She was kind to everyone. It was just that she was religious, and it was a sin in her eyes. But I guess for her daughter to identify as lesbian, perceptions change and perspectives change, and it's kind of like, how can I not love my daughter? She is who she is, and nothing about her has changed since coming out. So, yeah. So she was always kind to everyone. It was just one of those things that you knew that, or I felt that if I came out, I didn't think that she wasn't going to love me. I just thought that it was going to be hard, So I stayed in the closet for a while to make it easy for us. So, but my place in society is human. I'm very human. I understand that there are a lot of barriers for a lot of different people, whether it is because of race, sexuality, identity, socioeconomic status. I know there are so many different barriers, but I think where I fit at is, I think I've kind of experienced barriers at different levels, but at the end of the day, um, I see myself as human. So. My advice and just my own experience is, it's okay to be who you are. And for me, I went through different phases in regards to just understanding who I was. Was I this, just masculine identified woman in regards to being a tomboy? I embraced my femininity. So it was just kind of taking time to figure out who I was, and I didn't have to fit any type role. But for anyone, especially for women of color who identify as lesbians, because a lot of times in our communities, lesbianism or being gay isn't stereotypically in the Black community. It is very looked down upon. But I think a lot of that, a lot of those thoughts are antiquated. I see changes in the Black community in regards to acceptance of people of LGBT. I think times are changing. Churches are changing. Churches look different. They're more inclusive. Not to say that those barriers still don't exist, because they do, which cause a lot of individuals to remain in the closet. To someone, I would just say, take your time. Some people can't come out, and they shouldn't be shamed for not being able to come out. Some people can't come out due to maybe they're in college and their parents are paying their college, and I get it. Maybe that they're in a situation that they're just not ready. People come out at different times, but my advice is to take your time. Take your time. Don't get caught up in labels. Sexuality is just so fluid, but just don't get caught in labels, and just be the unique you. My favorite part about being me, I think there are so many facets to who I am. I'm not um, just one rigid person. I'm not just one flexible person. Just have so many different facets to who I am. Um, I wouldn't say chameleon, um, but for me, I think the unique me is just. I think my if I'm answering your question right, is I think I have the ability just to connect with a lot of different people on different levels, whether that is in conversation, whether it's non-verbal. I just think that I have an ability just to, um, I want, I want people to feel how I feel, and it goes back to treat people how you want to be treated. So I, I think I have a unique ability to do that. Um, a lot of people have been kind to me, and I just want to be able to give that energy back out into the universe. Working at LGBT Life Center has provided me the opportunity to grow and learn. Learn in regard. The community is so large and terminology changes, so it gives me the opportunity to learn words that may have changed in our communities, views that may have changed, but it also gives me the opportunity that what I'm learning, I'm able to pass it on. Newer pronouns like Z and they and them. I understand them now. So when I hear someone that doesn't understand why people use such pronouns, I'm able to communicate with them to provide the education where they're able to learn or to ask questions and to be okay asking questions. So I want to use my voice to educate, and to inform, and to help others grow to make life less complicated for other individuals that have many barriers. So I just want to be able to educate and inform. Just stay positive, and that sometimes LGBT community has a high suicide rate. My advice would be stay encouraged, um, create your own families. Um, and I get emotional because I've seen just where people have been pushed to the side, or um, in saying that my best friend Brandon, his family is Seventh-day Adventist, and they're missing out on who he is. So um, just for some people, it isn't that easy, basically. But yeah, sorry. Mhm. Yeah, yeah, sorry. I need my coffee. Thank you for allowing me to share, and, for what you're doing to help other lives be able to look at these videos to say, I do see myself in someone, and, I'm watching their video and I know it does get better, or I can get to where I need to be. So thank you for what you both are doing.